Imagine for a second that the ultimate weapon against the deadliest pathogens on Earth isn't some complex chemical cocktail. It's not a synthetic drug. It's totally invisible. It's sound. Seriously, what if we could essentially just shout a virus to death? I know, it sounds like pure science fiction. But today, we're going to look at some truly groundbreaking biophysics research that suggests this might actually become our medical reality.
Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to share this with you today because we're looking at a huge breakthrough from researchers down at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. They've discovered that specific high-frequency ultrasound waves, very similar to the ones you'd experience during a standard medical exam, well, they can actually eliminate enveloped viruses without doing a single bit of damage to human cells. They've coined it the popcorn effect, and by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how sonic viral destruction works.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Fighting viruses with sound. 2. The popcorn effect. 3. It's all about geometry. 4. Resonance versus cavitation. And 5. A green medical future.
Starting with Section 1, Fighting Viruses with Sound. To really appreciate the magnitude of this discovery, we first have to understand the battlefield here. Developing traditional chemical antiviral drugs is just incredibly complex. It's expensive and it's tough, mainly because viruses constantly mutate and hide inside our cells. So shifting this battleground entirely from chemistry to physics, that is completely revolutionary.
And look, this isn't just theoretical physics happening in a void somewhere. This is being applied to real-world high-stakes diseases right now. The researchers specifically targeted what we call enveloped viruses. An envelope is basically just the protective outer membrane of the virus. And we're talking about heavy hitters here. SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, and H1N1 influenza A. The team is also already running in vitro tests against dengue, chikungunya, and Zika. And to actually prove this was working, to literally see the destruction happening in real time, the initiative teamed up with Charles Rice. He's a 2020 Nobel Prize winner in medicine. He provided these specially engineered fluorescent viruses so the researchers could actually visualize the whole effect under a microscope. How cool is that?
Moving right along to Section 2, the popcorn effect. So how exactly does sound destroy a microscopic pathogen? Let's unpack a vivid and, honestly, highly accurate metaphor provided directly by the scientists leading this charge.
I absolutely love this quote from Professor Odemir Martinez-Bruno. He coordinated the study at the San Carlos Institute of Physics. He says, "It's kind of like fighting the virus with a shout. In this study, we proved that the energy of sound waves causes morphological changes in viral particles until they explode, a phenomenon comparable to what happens with popcorn." That just perfectly eliminates the intimidation factor of the complex physics here, right? Think of a kernel of popcorn heating up in a microwave. The energy builds up inside until the structural integrity completely fails and bam, it violently pops. That is exactly what's happening to the virus's protective envelope.
Let's move to how this builds step by step and see the exact sequence of destruction. First, the high-frequency sound waves hit the viral particle. Second, the energy from those waves begins to accumulate inside the pathogen. Third, as that energy builds up, it degrades the whole structure, causing that protective membrane, the envelope, to stretch and deform. And finally, step 4, the virus ruptures and explodes. And once that protective membrane bursts, that's it. The virus is completely inactivated. It's physically destroyed, preventing it from ever invading a human cell. On to Section 3. It's all about geometry. Now, you might be wondering, well, why didn't scientists think of this earlier? Honestly, this discovery surprised the researchers themselves because it openly contradicts classical physics theories. In classical physics, it was always assumed that because the wavelength of ultrasound is much, much longer than the tiny microscopic size of a virus, the two just wouldn't really interact. Theoretically, the waves should just pass right on by the virus. But the researchers found a brilliant loophole.
The core reason this phenomenon exists is entirely geometric. If viruses were square or triangular, this technique simply wouldn't work. They wouldn't undergo that popcorn effect at all. But because many enveloped viruses are spherical, well, it turns out these spherical microscopic particles are uniquely capable of absorbing this specific type of ultrasound wave energy. The shape itself is literally what traps the energy inside until the particle bursts.
So the crucial point here is understanding the actual name for this geometric loophole. It's called acoustic resonance. This is a physical phenomenon where a specific sound wave energy couples perfectly with a viral structure. It excites internal vibrations within that specific shape. Think of it like a highly precise physical lock and key. The sound wave finds that spherical shape, couples with it, and just shakes it from the inside out until mechanical rupture finally happens.
And this reliance on shape, it gives us one of the most incredibly reassuring takeaways from this entire study. Because this mechanism relies purely on physics and geometry, it completely ignores genetics. Meaning, genetic mutations, like the ones that caused so much trouble during the pandemic, like the Delta or Omicron variants, they do not reduce the effectiveness of this technique whatsoever. A mutated spherical virus is still a sphere. The sound wave does not care about the virus's modified genetic code, it only cares about its physical shape, which makes this a universally stable weapon against viral evolution.
Which brings us to Section 4, Resonance versus Cavitation. At this point, a very logical question probably pops into your head. If we're firing sound waves into the body that are powerful enough to explode a virus like popcorn, won't they just explode our human cells too? Obviously a critical safety question. And the answer lies in the specific type of physics being deployed.
And this brilliantly illustrates the safety aspect. We really have to separate two different physical phenomena here. Side A, cavitation, and side B, acoustic resonance. See, ultrasound is already used today to sterilize dental and surgical equipment, but that process uses cavitation. Cavitation uses low-frequency waves to collapse gas bubbles, and it is entirely unselective. It destroys all biological material, which is great for cleaning a surgical scalpel, but obviously terrible for human tissue. Our new technique, acoustic resonance, on side B, is completely different. It uses high frequency and it excites internal vibrations based purely on geometry, making it highly selective and completely safe for human cells.
The absolute secret to that safety and selectivity comes down to a highly specific frequency range, specifically 3 to 20 megahertz. By operating strictly at these very high frequencies, the ultrasound targets only the virus. The sound energy couples with the viral envelope, leaving our human cells completely unaffected. Plus, because it's just a mechanical vibration, it doesn't alter the temperature or the pH of the human body. The virus absorbs the energy and destabilizes, while our cells just ignore the noise entirely.
Finally, Section 5, a green medical future. As we look toward the horizon, the team at the University of Sao Paulo, along with their numerous collaborators across physics, virology, and pharmaceutical sciences, they are currently deeply involved in vitro testing. And yeah, while clinical use in humans is definitely still a ways off, the implications of this approach are just staggering.
Moving away from chemical drugs and toward physical treatments like sound waves presents a massive advantage. We're talking about a true green ultrasound solution. Relying on sound waves generates absolutely no chemical waste. It causes zero environmental impact, unlike the manufacturing and excretion of heavy pharmaceuticals. And perhaps most importantly for the future of global health, it does not promote viral resistance. Viruses can mutate to survive a chemical, but they literally cannot mutate their way out of physical destruction if they want to maintain their structure. We've explored how high-frequency acoustic resonance can turn deadly viruses into microscopic popcorn simply by targeting their geometric shape. We've seen how this bypasses the endless arms race of genetic mutations and offers a clean, green, highly selective alternative to chemical antivirals. So it forces us to ask one final question. Could physical sound wave treatments actually replace chemical drugs in the next century of medicine? Well, if these in vitro tests translate successfully into clinical practice, the answer could be a resounding yes. The next great leap in medical science might literally just be a matter of finding the right frequency. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating biophysics breakthrough with me, and I hope it leaves you as eager to follow this research as I am.